Ever think about how history can turn on a dime? We're about to dive into a moment where one man's life, just his survival, could have completely wiped the France we know off the map and build a massive English empire right in its place. Yeah, let's get into it.
So here's the big question we're tackling today. What if a king's life was worth more than a kingdom? I mean, seriously, what if one single person living just a few more months could have completely changed the map of Europe? We're not just talking about winning a battle here. We're talking about the very idea of England and France as we think of them.
All right, so picture this. The year is 1422. King Henry V of England, the hero of Agincourt, is basically on top of the world. He's at the absolute height of his power. He's already conquered a huge chunk of northern France, and get this, he's just been named the legal heir to the French throne. It's not a matter of if he'll win anymore. It feels totally inevitable, like destiny.
But, as we all know, history rarely goes according to plan. The universe threw a massive wrench in the works. Henry V dies. Not in battle, not in some glorious last stand, but from dysentery. And the timing is just brutal. He dies just 2 months before the French king he was meant to succeed, so he never actually got to wear that crown he fought so hard for. His heir, a baby, and his whole grand vision just falls apart. So that brings us to the big what if. What if he just lived? That's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, first up, the king in Paris. Let's really dig into what would have happened right away. If Henry survives, he's not just a claimant anymore. He's crowned king of France. And boom, the entire political landscape of Europe shifts in a heartbeat. It's not a maybe anymore, it's a fact on the ground. You've got this incredibly powerful, proven warrior king sitting right on the throne in Paris. And you know what's really fascinating here is just how solid his position was in 1422. We tend to think of him as this foreign invader, right? But he was so much more than that. He was this charismatic, proven military commander, and he held all the key areas, Paris, Normandy, the whole north. He had the loyalty of the super-powerful Burgundians, support from major French nobles, even the University of Paris was backing him. This wasn't some flimsy claim. He had real, legitimate authority.
And just by being alive, he would have sidestepped all the problems that completely torpedo the English in our history. Think about it. Instead of a baby king, Henry VI, and a bunch of quarreling regents fighting over power, you get one guy, a single, decisive, respected ruler calling the shots. That stability, that is the absolute foundation for everything else that's about to change.
All right, so with Henry V firmly on the throne, the dominoes really start to fall. The entire story of French resistance, it gets rewritten. All the heroes and alliances you think you know, they're about to be turned completely on their heads.
Let's start with maybe the most famous figure of the war, Joan of Arc. Her whole incredible story, it's born out of absolute desperation, right? France was a mess. It was leaderless, demoralized, its armies were basically collapsing. A lot of people genuinely felt like God had just given up on them. It was that crisis, that total void of leadership and hope, that made her mission not just possible, but absolutely essential.
And this is where you can see the two timelines just split apart. In our history, you have a leaderless France in crisis, but in Henry's timeline, you have a strong, legitimate king sitting in Paris. In our timeline, the powerless dauphin is a symbol of resistance. In this one, he's a marginalized rebel on the run. The whole feeling that God has abandoned France, that's replaced with a sense that English rule is just inevitable. So, you see, the mission for a Joan of Arc isn't just unnecessary. The very conditions for her to even exist as a historical figure are gone.
The other massive piece of the puzzle here is the alliance with Burgundy. This was the game changer in our history. When the Burgundians flipped and sided with France, it was pretty much the beginning of the end for the English. But Philip the Good, the Duke of Burgundy, he didn't just see Henry V as a boss, he saw him as a partner, a respected equal. Henry had even avenged the murder of Philip's father. So with Henry alive and well, that crucial alliance holds firm. And together, the Anglo-Burgundian forces are an absolute juggernaut.
So, let's recap. No Joan of Arc to rally the French, and his powerful Burgundian allies are locked in. The board is set. So how would King Henry actually finish the job? This is where we get to see his unique genius as a military commander really shine.
Look, Henry V was not the kind of guy to just sit on his laurels in Paris. He was all about action and strategy. So his campaign would have been pretty straightforward. Step 1. Seize the Loire Valley to literally cut France in two. Step 2, go after the Dauphin's capital in exile at Bourges and destroy it. And Step 3, consolidate his control over the huge territory of Aquitaine. It's a clear, logical, and totally achievable plan.
And here's why he could pull it off where others failed. Henry wasn't just good at fighting, he was a genius at the boring stuff. His logistical skill was unmatched. He was a master of siege warfare. He demanded and got strict discipline. But honestly, his real superpower might sound kinda mundane. He made sure his soldiers actually got paid. In an era of unreliable mercenaries, that was huge. It meant fierce loyalty. It meant an army that would follow him to the ends of the earth. With him in charge, a total English conquest of France goes from being a possibility to a probability.
Okay, let's fast forward. He does it. He succeeds. The 100 Years' War is over, decades ahead of schedule. So what does this new world look like? What is this new Anglo-French Empire, this dual monarchy, actually like? Well, the long-term ripple effects are just staggering.
First, let's look at England itself. The biggest change might actually be at home. You know the Wars of the Roses? That incredibly bloody civil war between Lancaster and York? A huge reason that happened was because of the disastrous reign of Henry VI and the national humiliation of losing the war in France. But in this timeline, with a strong, victorious, and still living Henry V on the throne, the whole reason for that war probably just evaporates.
But okay, winning the war is one thing. Governing this thing, that's a whole other beast. This dual monarchy isn't one happy kingdom. It's two incredibly distinct, proud, and rival cultures shoved together under one crown. And let's be real, France was richer and had way more people. The French nobility and the French people were not just going to roll over and accept being ruled by an English king forever, no matter how good he was.
So, where could this all go in the long run? It kind of boils down to three really interesting possibilities. Scenario A, the whole thing is held together by Henry's personal genius, a temporary superstate that falls apart after he dies in, say, the 1440s or 50s. Scenario B, the Union breaks, but England manages to hang on to its key French territories, like Normandy and Gascony, creating this smaller but still powerful trans-channel empire. Or, Scenario C, the most mind-bending one, Henry's heirs actually manage to integrate with the French elites. They become a new French dynasty, creating a permanent Anglo-French kingdom that would just rewrite the entire future of Europe.
So, when you put it all together, the conclusion is pretty wild. If Henry V just avoids that bout of dysentery, the cascade of changes is just immense. Joan of Arc likely never becomes a household name. The Burgundians stand Team England. The 100 Years' War ends decades early with a clear English victory. The bloody Wars of the Roses are probably avoided entirely. And you get this vast Plantagenet empire reshaping Europe, at least for a while. The real question isn't if he could have won, but for how long his new empire could have possibly survived.
And that leaves us with a pretty deep thought to chew on. Which path of history was actually better? We like to think of history as this big, unstoppable river, but this shows how much of it can really pivot on a single life, a single moment of chance. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is another turning point like this even possible today? What small thing happening right now could be completely reshaping the world of tomorrow?